Guys, look at that. That's black beans ranchero. You want to try a dish that you're going to find absolutely stunning? This is it. Great way to do black beans. Give this a try. Howdy folks, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're making a fantastic dish. This is black beans ranch style, or black beans ranchero. Okay, so what we're gonna do is cook this very simple dish up. It's not hard to do, it's inexpensive, and it is very, very healthy. Guys, if you've never had black beans, you need to try this recipe. You're gonna be surprised how good it is. So I'll tell you what, let's get in the kitchen, look at those magnificent ingredients, and let's get busy cooking up black beans ranchero. Come on. All right, guys. Now here we have our goodies that we're going to be making these beautiful black beans with. The ingredients that I have, so you'll know, and this is less than I actually am using in the beans, but I just have this out for display. I am using 1 pound of black beans for this recipe. And to that, we'll be using 1 medium onion, 4 to 5 cloves of garlic, 3 medium-sized jalapenos, 2 teaspoons of, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of cumin, almost got that wrong, and if you have any old meat laying around, like a piece of ham or a ham bone or some old brisket, that's what I'm using today. It'll give a nice smoky flavor. Anything like that that you have, you can just toss right in there, and that's okay. If you don't have any meat, you don't have to use meat. You can just leave it out. You can leave this as a vegetarian dish that way. The beans, you're going to need to go ahead and get these guys washed, okay? And then before you do that, just pour them into a large pan and sift through them and really check close, guys, because lots of times, I mean lots of times, I have found rocks, little stones inside bags of beans. Expensive beans, inexpensive, doesn't matter what the brand is, it just happens, guys. So be very careful, sift through them, make sure you don't get anything hard to chomp down on and hurt your teeth, okay? After you've sifted through, make sure the rocks are out, wash them real good, put them in a pan and cover them with some water. And that's what I've done here. I've got a pan that I've had soaking black beans overnight. Now here we go. If you'll notice, their color has changed a little bit. Black beans do that, and the water itself turns something of a purple hue. And this is normal because black beans are not actually black, guys. They are a dark purple color actually. And in fact, that's one of the things that's used to make purple dye, is the color from black beans. Now I want to say this, when it comes to soaking beans and preparing them for cooking, there are 2 schools of thought. School of thought number 1 is you soak those beans, and once you're finished soaking them, you then pour that soaking water off, wash them, and refill it with fresh water to cook. You can do that, yes, and that is what a lot of the packages will say for the beans, and that's okay to do that. And the reason they're suggesting people do that is that helps to remove some of those long sugar chains. Beans have 3 different kinds of long sugars that, well, they're hard to digest, and as a result, they create a lot of gas in the intestines. You can take an enzyme. There are some enzymes you can take that are designed to help reduce gas, and that will take care of that problem. Soaking beans will not remove all of those sugars that don't process well. It'll only remove a percentage of it. So even though you're lowering those sugars a certain amount by throwing out that rinse water, or excuse me, the soak water, you're not changing it a lot. So if you want to go ahead and use the soak water, because hey, it does contain a lot of nutrients right there, go ahead and do that, guys. I like to do it that way. That's the way I'm going to do this. If you feel better about rinsing yours out and changing that water, then go ahead. Meaning, if you've got problems with gas, go ahead and change the water. Now, I'll tell you what a lot of Hispanic people will say. They'll say, put cumin in there, and that will take care of that gassiness problem. And guys, funny thing is I use the cumin for the flavor, but it actually does work for the gassy problem. So, give that a try. You'll be surprised how well it works. Let's get on with cutting up our vegetables so we can get these beans cooked up. I'm going to chop all of this up. We'll throw it in here and get this simmering. Okay guys, we need to get these cut up. And let's remember our basic knife cutting rules, which are grab the knife by pinching the blade so you're choking up and you get better roll control on that knife, especially big knives like this. And then keep these fingertips turned under, okay? Like so. That way this part of your finger right here becomes the guide to the side of the knife, all right? And these fingers will hold that food in place. Always keep that thumb not up on the side like this where you can cut it, but in the back, okay? Let's go ahead and remove the crown on each of these. Now, the reason I am using these gloves, and this is very important, especially if you're going to be processing jalapenos, guys. When you process jalapenos, these things have a lot of capsaicin in them, all right? Now, that capsaicin, that's the oil that makes them hot. The vast majority of the capsaicin in this jalapeno is found in this white tissue that's right underneath the green tissue. So here's the thing. Some people will say, oh, jalapenos aren't that hot. Go ahead and leave that in there. For those people, hey guys, if you want to leave it in, go ahead. But frankly, a lot of folks don't want that much heat. And if you want to remove the heat from jalapeno, boom, there's the way you remove 90% of it right there. So all I'm going to do is cut that out on each and every one of these. And then I'm going to get busy slicing these up. Now, I don't get crazy trying to strip out these veins totally like so, but if you have a problem, like I say, with the heat, the capsaicin of chili peppers, you might want to get a little more intense about it, just like that. So if you would, just go ahead and cut yours down the exact same way. Now, if you want, when you're finished, just rinse these out, and don't worry if you got a little rough with your knife, it's not going to hurt a thing. Now guys, once you get them to this point and they have the inside removed, they've been rinsed, you can, and a lot of chefs will tell you to cut your chilies with the skin side down, and it makes cutting a lot easier, okay? And for a lot of people that's true. If your knives aren't sharp enough, that will also help a little bit too. My knives are sharp enough, so I can kind of go at my chilies either way I want. But what I'm looking for here, I'm looking for a fine dice, and these don't have to be perfect, but you know, you don't want things to be too uneven in any of your food. If it's uneven, then it just looks uneven. It looks like it was just kind of thrown together. I want my dice to be very even and uniform. Now if you'll notice that little rolling motion I'm making with that knife, as much a roll as a slice. I'm sliding it forward and working with the curvature of my blade at the same exact time. Guys, let's take care of processing our onion next. Now let me tell you something about onions and handling them. A couple of things that we're going to consider here. When it comes to handling your onions, remember these things grow in layers, and those layers grow, you know, in a ball. Let's cut off the stem end. Now, the way an onion works, it doesn't give off a lot of its juices from this side nearly as much as it does from this side. That's the side that the juices went into it from, and for some reason they come out faster from this side. After I remove the top of my onion, I'm then simply going to remove these outer layers to get down to the meat. Now guys, I gave that a quick rinse. That was to knock off any of the extra bits of paper on the outside. here's my initial cut right here. I'm going to line my knife up on the side of the root, right along that cut, and slide straight down. Okay, there's one part of my onion and two other parts. Now the cutting technique I'm going to teach you takes into account the fact that this layer of onion right here, each one of these, grows all the way around, okay? So if I make cuts on this piece of onion this way and this way, that will give me dice, yes. However, it will give me uneven dice. I either need to make wedge cuts with my blade angled like this, bringing it around, or I need to add in a cross cut to get the side of the onion here where it's rolling down. If I make cuts here, those cuts are going to be wider than the cuts I make up here. So there's a way of compensating for that, and I want to teach it to you right here. My first cut is going to be a cross cut. Now, anytime if I'm right-handed, bring my knife this way, that is called what we call the suicide cut, because it can come back on you, okay? If you're worried about that cut, turn that knife around and cut away from you, just like that, all right? Then I'm going to make my lengthwise cuts. See, I've got that cross cut in that side, so I don't have to worry when that first cut hits here and the next one here that I'm going to have uneven dice, because I won't. I'll have perfectly even dice this way. If you're thinking, wow, that's so much extra work than just chopping it up. Yeah, maybe so. However, if I chop it up, I have a bunch of uneven pieces. A, it looks shoddy. B, it's not professional of me. And C, I'm not teaching you right. There we go. Now the idea here is to get even pieces. Even pieces cook evenly. They release evenly. And also they look uniform in your dish. So go for the even. Now here's that suicide cut. Boom, right there. If your knife is dull at all, be very careful, folks, because sharp knives cut people. Dull knives send people to the emergency room. If you're wondering how that works, it's because when you're fighting a dull knife, you've got a lot of pressure behind it, and you can hurt yourself because of that pressure that's behind the knife. It can fly out. Now here's a good example of why you're making that sideways cut, okay? This piece more than any other. You have this side piece here. If all I do is just cut like this and like this, I want to have some really wide pieces. I have to narrow those pieces down, okay? So I'm going to bring my knife back to the root here, and the same thing on the other side. Boom. Now I can, in the middle where the layers come around this way, where they cross this way, it's a little bit flat. So I'm going to make one cut in the center and one on each side of it. Then and there you have it. The only thing left, just the root. Isn't that beautiful? Perfect. Perfect onion. That's the kind of onion that'll get you through a competition. Now, okay, everybody likes to ask different questions about cutting onions, and here's a good one for you. Someone has asked me, what about the sulfuric fume that makes you cry? What can I do to stop that from happening? Okay, to get rid of the sulfuric fume, when you're cutting onions, guys, what you need to do is turn on some air. Get a fan blowing, okay? If there's a fan blowing the fumes coming off of those onions into a different area, then it's not coming up into your nose and eyes and causing them to burn and be irritated. A fan is the solution. Let's go ahead and take care of that garlic. Now, I had one bulb that was already started, so I'm going to use it first. Guys, remember, when removing the paper from garlic, oh, it's so easy. You just take that garlic and give it a twist between your thumb and forefinger, and that paper comes off of there. Just like that. And the thing of doing it this way, you get a whole piece of garlic that has not been broken. It's not weeping any of its juices or oils. It's fast. It's easy. Now, getting into that garlic bulb. Push in at the top. See there? And it'll pop open. Again, those garlic cloves. Now guys, to process this garlic, to get it ready, I'm going to simply cut the scab off where it was attached. If you wish to mince or slice your garlic, you can do that. But frankly, for a dish that's going to be stewed like beans are stewed, you don't really have to. All you got to do is just give it a little crush. Once you break it open, and see what I'm doing? I keep that edge down like this, not up. Protects my fingers. Although sometimes the garlic will shoot out because of that. All right. And again, if you just want to chop them, that will work too. There we go. Now guys, as I've always taught on this show, we do that setup method. You get everything cut and sliced and ready to go, and then you start cooking. And you always do that method, guys, and what it does for you. That method is wonderful because it allows you to focus on cooking itself. You don't have to worry about chopping while you're trying to stir and keep things from burning or whatever. Now what we need to do is go ahead and get everything down in this pot. The first thing I need to do is start with my cumin. That was 2 teaspoons, okay? Now once you get used to measuring in your hand, you'll get good at it. That's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. That's my timer talking to me. And then 1 tablespoon of paprika. I am not putting salt in here at this time. I'll salt it at the end of cooking. There we go, tablespoon paprika. Now how do you get to where you can measure in your hand? It's simple. You use measuring spoons. Measure the item out, place it in your hand, look at it, and do that over and over. And once you've kind of got a feel for it, you'll know exactly how much to put in there. The next thing, our garlic. Onion. And our beef. And that right there was about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of beef. You know, just whatever you have. Like I said, if you have ham, if you have a ham bone, ham hock, pig's feet, neck bones, whatever you want to throw in there, they're great for creating that extra sparkle of flavor. And if it's something that was smoked like ham or smoked brisket, it's an extra kick. And that's what I put in mine. We've got a little smoked brisket in there. So these are going to be some really good black beans ranchero. I have a high flame under this. As it comes up in temperature and it starts to simmer, I will lower that temperature on the flame, cover it, and then I'm going to simmer that for 60 to 90 minutes. That's 1 hour to 1.5 hours, guys. As this is starting to come up in temperature, don't forget to stir it a little bit. Now look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Don't we have a wonderful looking thing going on here? Black beans ranchero. This is one of my favorites. It's way healthy. Now guys, once your beans break into a nice boil like this, you want to lower the temperature. Now I'm going to put a lid on it. And I'm going to give it time. They have to just sit there and simmer, guys. So we'll check them in about 1 hour, and if they need a little more cooking, then we'll let them go. Guys, my beans have been cooking for almost 90 minutes now. I have just tested them. I've tasted them. They're tender. It's beautifully cooked. That is a wonderful black beans ranchero right there. And just fabulous way of doing them. This is the point. If you wish to salt your beans, go ahead and salt. And what I'm going to do, each of those was about 1/2 teaspoon. So I'll put in about 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm going to stir that. I'm going to give it about 5 minutes. I'm going to taste it again. And if I need to adjust that seasoning again, I can do so. Never salt your beans early in the cooking, guys, because if you do, it's going to cause the bean to be tough and it won't tenderize the way it should. Salt hinders good cooking on a bean. There it is, guys. Isn't that beautiful? Look at this. Look at this. Very, very good way to do black beans. If you're looking for a neat way to jazz up your black beans to make them good, oh my God, that's good. They just melt in your mouth. It's heavenly. The flavors are spot on perfect. The beans are tender. They soaked all night. It was a fabulous way to do this. You really need to try this recipe if you haven't done black beans, guys. It's a good one. And I would like to say thank you. Thank you very much for watching my show. To my subscribers, an extra special thank you to you, and cheers. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, guys, why not? Click the button, click the little bell. You'll know when I put out new recipes. It's usually Thursdays. And you're gonna have some really, really good stuff. If you would please share my videos, please click like. And thank you again for watching. You folks have a good day. Bye-bye.